Anne 1707 to 1714. Queen Anne's reign, which spanned from 1707 to 1714, holds a significant place in British history. It marked a pivotal period of political and social transformation during the early 18th century. Anne, the last monarch of the Stuart dynasty, ascended to the throne following the Act of Union 1707, which united the Kingdom of England and the Kingdom of Scotland into a single entity known as Great Britain. This union had profound implications for the future of the British Isles and the British Empire. Anne's reign was also characterized by her involvement in the War of the Spanish Succession, a conflict that had far-reaching consequences for the balance of power in Europe and the rise of the British Empire as a global superpower. Furthermore, her reign witnessed important developments in religion, culture, and politics, leaving an indelible mark on the nation's history. Union of England and Scotland. The Act of Union in 1707 was a watershed moment, creating the political entity of Great Britain. It laid the groundwork for the United Kingdom as we know it today. This union symbolized a step towards unity and stability in the British Isles. War of the Spanish Succession. Anne's involvement in this major European conflict marked the rise of Britain as a formidable military and colonial power. Victories such as the Battle of Blenheim and the Treaty of Utrecht contributed to Britain's ascension on the world stage. Religious tensions. Anne's reign was marked by religious strife, particularly regarding the Church of England. It provides insights into the complex relationship between monarchy, religion, and politics in early modern Britain. Cultural and architectural legacy. Queen Anne era witnessed significant advancements in culture and architecture. Her patronage of the arts left an enduring impact on literature, architecture, and the cultural landscape of Britain. Queen Anne was born on February 6, 1665, in St. James's Palace, London, as the second daughter of James, Duke of York, who would later become King James II, and Anne Hyde. Her birth came at a time of significant political and religious turmoil in England. Anne's father, James, was a staunch Roman Catholic, and her mother, Anne Hyde, was a Protestant. This mixed religious background would have a lasting impact on Anne's life and reign. Anne had a somewhat challenging upbringing. She and her older sister, Mary, were raised in the royal court but were often overshadowed by their uncle, King Charles II. Tragically, Anne's mother died when she was just 6 years old, and her father's contentious reign further complicated her early years. This tumultuous family environment would later shape Anne's approach to politics and religion. The Act of Union 1707 was a historic piece of legislation that forever altered the geopolitical landscape of the British Isles. It merged the Kingdom of England and the Kingdom of Scotland into a single political entity known as Great Britain. Anne's role in this pivotal event was that of a monarch whose approval and cooperation were necessary for its realization. Anne was a key figure in the Act of Union negotiations. She recognized the benefits of unification, which included economic stability, strengthened defenses against foreign powers, and the potential for a united colonial empire. Her support for the Union was instrumental in overcoming political opposition in both England and Scotland. Anne's role was not merely ceremonial. She played an active part in lobbying for the Union, using her influence to persuade members of the Scottish Parliament. Her efforts culminated in the formal ratification of the Act of Union on May 1, 1707. It was a momentous achievement that laid the groundwork for the future United Kingdom. Anne's accession to the throne in 1707 marked a significant turning point in British history. She became Queen of England, Scotland, and Ireland upon the death of her brother-in-law, King William III, William of Orange, in March 1702. This event occurred after the Glorious Revolution of 1688, which had seen Anne's sister, Mary, and William of Orange assume the throne, pushing their Catholic father, King James II, into exile. Anne's reign was not a straightforward ascent to power. The Act of Settlement 1701 had been passed to ensure that a Protestant monarch would succeed to the throne, bypassing many Catholic claimants. As a result, Anne was next in line for the throne after her sister Mary, who had died in 1694 without leaving a direct heir. Anne's accession was not only significant for its Protestant continuity but also because it brought her to the throne at a crucial juncture when the War of the Spanish Succession was unfolding. Anne's reign would be defined by her political decisions, her role in the Act of Union 1707, and her involvement in European conflicts, leaving a lasting legacy on the history of Britain and its place in the world. The War of the Spanish Succession, 1701 to 1714, was a major European conflict that arose due to a complex web of dynastic and geopolitical factors. At its core, the war revolved around the question of who would succeed to the Spanish throne after the death of Charles II of Spain. Charles II, who had no direct heirs, left a will naming Philip of Anjou, a grandson of King Louis XIV of France, as his successor. However, this choice was contested by other European powers, most notably the Grand Alliance, which included England, the Dutch Republic, and the Holy Roman Empire. They feared that a union of the French and Spanish crowns would upset the balance of power in Europe and potentially allow France to dominate the continent. The war involved a series of battles and campaigns across Europe and the Spanish territories. Major battles, such as the Battle of Blenheim, 1704, and the Battle of Ramillies, 1706, saw the Grand Alliance achieve significant victories, which weakened the position of Philip of Anjou in Spain. Queen Anne played a crucial role in the War of the Spanish Succession, as her reign coincided with the conflict. Her stance was primarily influenced by her commitment to the Grand Alliance and her desire to prevent the consolidation of the French and Spanish thrones under a single ruler. Anne's support for the war effort was evident through her authorization of military campaigns and her involvement in strategic decision-making. Her government, led by key figures like John Churchill, the Duke of Marlborough, and Robert Harley, was instrumental in prosecuting the war effectively. The victories at Blenheim, Ramillies, and Oudenarde, among others, were attributed to the leadership of Marlborough, who was rewarded with the title of First Duke of Marlborough for his military achievements. Anne's dedication to the war effort was further underscored by her commitment to securing favorable terms in the Treaty of Utrecht, 1713, which brought an end to the war. This treaty was a significant milestone, as it marked the recognition of Philip of Anjou as King of Spain but with strict conditions to prevent the union of the French and Spanish crowns. It also resulted in territorial gains for Britain, such as Gibraltar and Minorca, strengthening the British Empire. The Duke and Duchess of Marlborough, John Churchill and Sarah Churchill, were Anne's trusted advisors and played a prominent role in her government during the early years of her reign. John Churchill, in particular, served as a military commander and diplomat. His military successes, as mentioned earlier, were instrumental in the war effort. However, their relationship eventually soured due to political and personal differences. The Marlboroughs' influence waned as Anne began to favor Robert Harley and the Tory faction. Their fall from grace marked a significant shift in Anne's political alliances. Robert Harley was a key political figure during Anne's reign and led the Tory faction in the government. Anne's preference for the Tories marked a departure from the Whig-dominated politics of the late 17th century. Harley's influence was particularly pronounced after the fall of the Marlboroughs, and he served as Anne's chief minister from 1710 to 1714. Under Harley's leadership, the Tory government pursued a more conservative agenda, which included seeking a negotiated end to the War of the Spanish Succession. This approach culminated in the Treaty of Utrecht. Anne's alliance with the Tories reflected the shifting political landscape of her reign and her willingness to adapt to changing circumstances. Queen Anne's religious beliefs and their impact on her reign were shaped by the religious turmoil of her time. Anne herself was a devout Anglican, which means she adhered to the Church of England, the established Protestant church. Her religious convictions played a significant role in her approach to governance and policy decisions during her reign. Anne's personal commitment to Anglicanism influenced her support for Protestant succession, a crucial aspect of her reign. The Act of Settlement 1701, which secured the Protestant succession to the English throne, was passed during her reign to ensure that only Protestants could inherit the crown. This act reflected Anne's deep-seated desire to prevent a Catholic monarch from ascending the throne, which would have been unacceptable to her and many of her subjects in the predominantly Protestant England. The Act of Union 1707, which united England and Scotland to form Great Britain, had significant implications for religious freedom. One of the key provisions of the Act was the preservation of the Church of England as the established church in England, while the Church of Scotland, the Kirk, was maintained as the established church in Scotland. This meant that both England and Scotland retained their respective national churches. However, the Act of Union also contained safeguards for religious freedom. It guaranteed the rights and privileges of the Presbyterian Church of Scotland and allowed for the continued existence of the Presbyterian system in Scotland. While the Church of England remained the state church in England, the Act recognized and respected the religious diversity within the newly formed Great Britain. The Act of Union can be seen as an attempt to strike a balance between maintaining the established churches in both countries while respecting the religious differences that existed. It allowed for the coexistence of two state churches within the new political entity, which was a pragmatic solution to religious tensions. During Anne's reign, the Church of England was a source of controversy and political conflict. One of the key issues was the relationship between the monarchy and the church, as well as the ongoing debate between High Church and Low Church factions within the Church of England. High Church versus Low Church. The High Church faction, which favored more elaborate and traditional liturgical practices, tended to be more sympathetic to the Stuart cause and supported a strong connection between the monarchy and the church. The Low Church faction, on the other hand, advocated for a more moderate and inclusive approach to religious practices, often aligning with the Whigs in political matters. Toleration and religious dissent. Anne's reign saw debates over religious toleration and the rights of religious dissenters, particularly nonconformists. The Toleration Act 1689 had already granted some religious freedoms to dissenters, but tensions remained over issues such as access to civil offices and the repeal of the Test Acts, which required public officials to be Anglican. Occasional conformity and schism. Anne faced challenges related to occasional conformity, a practice where nonconformists would temporarily conform to the Church of England to meet legal requirements and hold public office. The schism between the High Church and Low Church factions intensified during Anne's reign, with both sides vying for influence in her government. Queen Anne's reign had a lasting impact on English culture, and her patronage of the arts played a significant role in shaping the cultural landscape of the early 18th century. Her contributions to English culture can be observed in several ways. Literature. Anne's reign was marked by the flourishing of English literature, often referred to as the Augustan Age. Writers like Jonathan Swift, Alexander Pope, and Joseph Addison produced some of their most famous works during this period. Anne's support for literary figures and her presence at the royal court contributed to a vibrant literary scene. Theater and entertainment. The early 18th century witnessed the development of the English novel as a distinct literary form. Anne herself enjoyed theater and literature, which helped foster a culture of entertainment. The period saw the rise of playwrights like William Congreve and the popularity of the comedic genre known as Restoration comedy. Music and opera. Anne was an avid patron of music and opera. The composer George Frederick Handel, who became a British citizen during her reign, composed several works for the royal court. Opera, in particular, saw significant growth and popularity during this era. One of the most notable architectural achievements of Queen Anne's reign was the completion of Blenheim Palace, a magnificent country house located in Oxfordshire, England. Blenheim Palace was designed by the renowned architect Sir John Vanbrugh and was built as a reward for the military success of John Churchill, the Duke of Marlborough, in the Battle of Blenheim during the War of the Spanish Succession. The palace is a masterpiece of English Baroque architecture and is often considered one of the greatest country houses in Britain. Its grandeur and opulence reflect the taste and style of the period. The palace's architectural features, including its stunning facades, impressive columns, and ornate interiors, stand as a testament to the wealth and power of the Marlborough family. Blenheim Palace is not only an architectural marvel but also an important cultural and historical site. It has served various purposes over the centuries, including as a family residence, a symbol of military triumph, and a venue for cultural events and exhibitions. Today, it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and a popular tourist destination, offering visitors a glimpse into the architectural and cultural legacy of Queen Anne's era. Queen Anne's patronage had a profound influence on literature and the arts during her reign. Her support for artists, writers, and musicians fostered a climate of creativity and cultural development. Some key points regarding her patronage include literature. Anne was known for her patronage of writers and poets. She supported the works of prominent literary figures, such as Jonathan Swift, who dedicated his satirical masterpiece, Gulliver's Travels, to her. Alexander Pope, another celebrated poet of the time, also received royal patronage and wrote works in her honor. Music. Anne's patronage extended to the world of music. She supported composers like George Frideric Handel, who composed the water music for a royal boat trip on the River Thames. Handel's music had a lasting impact on English music and remains influential to this day. Art and architecture. Anne's reign saw the continuation of the Baroque style in art and architecture. The construction of Blenheim Palace, as previously mentioned, is a testament to her support for grand architectural projects. Artists like Sir Godfrey Kneller, who painted numerous portraits of the Queen, also benefited from her patronage. The Act of Union was a response to several factors, including the desire for economic and political stability, as well as concerns about the succession. The Union was seen as a way to strengthen the defenses of the British Isles, create a more unified economic system, and prevent a possible future Scottish monarch from pursuing independent policies that could threaten the unity of the British state. The Union was not without controversy, as it raised concerns about Scottish identity and autonomy. However, it ultimately passed, and on May 1, 1707, the two kingdoms were officially joined. This event reshaped the political map of Britain and set the stage for the formation of the United Kingdom. The death of Prince George of Denmark, Anne's husband, in 1708, was a significant personal and political event during her reign. George was the love of Anne's life, and his passing had a profound impact on her. The couple had a close and affectionate relationship, and George's death left Anne devastated. Her grief was evident in her black mourning attire, which she continued to wear for the rest of her life. From a political perspective, Prince George's death had implications for the succession. Anne and George had no surviving children, and with George's passing, there was growing uncertainty about who would succeed Anne on the throne. This situation intensified the succession crisis and added complexity to the political landscape. The question of the succession to the British throne loomed large during Anne's later years. With the death of her husband and the absence of any surviving children, there was uncertainty about who would inherit the crown after her. This uncertainty led to political maneuvering and competing claims. The Act of Settlement 1701 had already designated Sophia of Hanover, a Protestant descendant of James VI and I, as the heir to the British throne in the event that Anne died without a Protestant successor. Sophia's son, George, Elector of Hanover, was next in line. The Hanoverian succession was secured by the death of Queen Anne in 1714. Anne's death marked the end of the Stuart dynasty, and George I of the House of Hanover became the first monarch of the House of Hanover in the United Kingdom. This transition was relatively peaceful, but it was not without opposition, particularly from Jacobite supporters who sought to restore a Stuart monarch. The Hanoverian succession, however, laid the foundation for the modern British monarchy and the long-lasting Hanoverian era. Queen Anne's reign, which spanned from 1707 to 1714, was a transformative period in British history. It was marked by significant political, religious, and cultural developments that continue to shape the nation today. Anne's reign began with the Act of Union 1707, a landmark event that united England and Scotland to create the political entity of Great Britain. This union laid the foundation for the modern United Kingdom, with profound implications for the future of the British Isles and the British Empire. Her involvement in the War of the Spanish Succession elevated Britain to the status of a major European power. The victories of British forces, led by figures like John Churchill, the Duke of Marlborough, strengthened Britain's influence on the continent and contributed to the nation's growing imperial ambitions. Religious tensions during Anne's reign, including debates over the Church of England and religious dissent, reflected the broader religious landscape of the era. The Act of Union preserved the respective national churches of England and Scotland while guaranteeing religious freedoms and diversity. Anne's cultural and architectural legacy left an indelible mark on British culture. Her patronage of literature, music, and the arts fostered a vibrant cultural scene known as the Augustan Age. Architecturally, her reign saw the completion of iconic structures like Blenheim Palace. Queen Anne's rule had a lasting impact on British history and set the stage for subsequent developments. Her commitment to the Protestant succession ensured the continuation of a Protestant monarchy, which remains a defining feature of the British monarchy. The Act of Union with Scotland, an enduring achievement of her reign, laid the groundwork for the modern United Kingdom. It brought together different nations under a single political entity and forged a sense of unity that endures today. Anne's patronage of the arts and culture contributed to the flourishing of the arts during her era. The literary works of writers like Jonathan Swift and Alexander Pope, as well as the compositions of George Frideric Handel, continue to be celebrated and studied. Her architectural legacy, exemplified by Blenheim Palace, stands as a testament to the grandeur and artistic achievements of her time. Queen Anne holds a unique place in British history. As the last monarch of the Stuart dynasty, her reign marked the end of a tumultuous era marked by religious conflict and political upheaval. Her reign's legacy is particularly significant in the context of the Glorious Revolution and the development of constitutional monarchy in Britain. Anne's role in the Act of Union and her commitment to the Protestant succession helped to consolidate the British state and maintain religious stability. Her support for the War of the Spanish Succession contributed to Britain's emergence as a global superpower, with a far-reaching impact on the British Empire. List of books and articles for further reading. Books. 1. Queen Anne, The Politics of Passion, by Anne Somerset. A comprehensive biography of Queen Anne, offering insights into her personal life and reign. 2. Queen Anne, Patroness of Arts, by James Anderson Wynne, explores Anne's patronage of literature, music, and the arts during her reign. 3. The Wars of the Bruces, Scotland, England and Ireland, 1306 to 1328, by Cole McNamee, provides historical context for the Act of Union 1707 and its implications for Scotland. Articles and academic papers. 1. Religious Toleration and Political Disagreement, Locke, Williams, and the Act of Toleration, by Michael Davis, an academic paper discussing religious toleration in Anne's reign. 2. Anne Stuart, 1665 to 1714, The Last Stuart Monarch, by William Gibson, an article examining Anne's life, reign, and significance in British history. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it informative, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this in the future.